The coffee spilled on the laptop. The alarm failed. The car wouldn't start. And now this. Emma Montgomery stood before the most intimidating gate she'd ever seen in her life, clutching a torn suitcase that was dripping her few belongings onto the wet asphalt. The September rain in Connecticut seemed to have a personal vendetta against her, soaking her curly hair as she reread the crumpled paper for the 10th time. Urgent position, live-in caregiver, experience not necessary, above average pay. Discretion essential. Discretion essential. What the hell did that mean? Her stomach growled loud enough to compete with the thunder. 3 days without a decent meal and exactly $17 in her pocket, Emma didn't have the luxury of being picky. Her mother's hospital bill wasn't going to pay itself. The intercom crackled when she pressed the button. "You're late." The male voice on the other side was sharp as ice. Emma looked at the broken watch on her wrist. "Actually, it's exactly 3 o'clock as agreed. 3:02. Punctuality is essential in this house." What a charming guy, she thought, rolling her eyes. "Sorry for those 120 seconds of delay. My private helicopter broke down." Silence. Then, for the first time in weeks, Emma heard something she didn't expect. A low, genuine laugh from the other side of the intercom. The gate opened with an electric buzz. The Whitmore mansion rose before her like something out of a period film, all gray stone and arched windows that looked like closed eyes to the world. Emma climbed the marble steps, each footfall echoing like a hammer against her chest. The door opened before she could knock. "Emma Montgomery, I presume?" The man before her made her heart stop for a moment. Tall, broad-shouldered beneath an impeccable white shirt, dark hair slightly disheveled as if he'd run his hands through it. But it was his eyes that caught her off guard, blue as a stormy ocean, yet empty. They didn't see her. "Benjamin Whitmore," he said, extending his hand into the space between them, slightly off target. Emma gently guided his hand to hers. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Whitmore." The moment their skin touched, something passed between them like an electric current. Benjamin froze, his fingers closing around her hand as if it were an anchor in the storm. For 3 seconds that felt like eternity. The world stopped. Then he released her hand as if he'd been burned. "Come in," he said, turning abruptly and walking with military precision through the main entrance. Mrs. Henderson left detailed instructions before departing unexpectedly. Emma followed him, trying not to notice the way he moved. Each step calculated, every movement proof that he knew every inch of this house. Trying not to think about the sensation of his hand in hers, or how her heart was still beating erratically. "Departing unexpectedly?" she asked. Benjamin stopped abruptly, making her nearly collide with him. He turned slightly, not enough to face her, but enough for her to see the sarcastic smile on his lips. "Apparently I'm too challenging for most people. Mrs. Henderson was the 4th caregiver in 6 months. The previous one lasted exactly 3 days. Emma raised an eyebrow. "What did you do? Throw silverware at them?" Again that low laugh. "Only once, and it was a spoon. Nothing lethal." "Good to know. I'll stay away from the utensil drawer." Benjamin turned completely toward her then, his eyes trying to find her in the space. "You're not afraid of me?" It wasn't a question. Emma studied his face, the tense jaw, the way he kept his shoulders rigid as if always preparing for battle. There was pain there, hidden behind the arrogance. Pain she recognized because she carried her own version of it. "Honestly, I'm afraid of many things, Mr. Whitmore. Afraid I won't be able to help my mother. Afraid of ending up sleeping on the street again. Afraid my suitcase will keep dripping on your very expensive marble floor." She paused. "But of you?" "No." Benjamin's shoulders relaxed almost imperceptibly. "Benjamin," he said softly. "Just Benjamin." And in that moment, Emma knew her life had changed forever. Not just because she finally had a roof over her head and the chance to help her mother, but because there was something about this wounded, proud man that made her heart race in a way she'd never experienced. What she didn't know was that Benjamin was feeling exactly the same thing. and neither of them had any idea that they had exactly 60 days to discover if love really can heal all wounds, or if some scars are too deep to be touched by light. Emma's first rule of survival: never trust a house that has more bathrooms than people she'd ever met. The Whitmore mansion had 7. "Your room is the third door on the left," Benjamin said, leading her up a grand staircase that probably cost more than her mother's entire medical treatment. "Dinner is at 6 sharp. I don't accommodate late arrivals." "What happens if I'm late? Do you throw spoons at me too?" "I save the forks for repeat offenders." Despite everything, Emma found herself smiling. Under all that ice, Benjamin Whitmore had a sense of humor. A twisted one, but still. Her room was bigger than her entire previous apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, flanked by windows that overlooked manicured gardens. Emma dropped her dripping suitcase on the Persian rug and immediately felt guilty about it. "The previous caregivers," she called out as Benjamin started to leave. "What exactly made them quit?" He paused in the doorway, his hand finding the frame with practiced ease. "Mrs. Peterson couldn't handle my attitude. Mrs. Chen said I was unreasonably demanding. Mrs. Rodriguez lasted 3 days before declaring me impossible to work with. And Mrs. Henderson?" A shadow crossed Benjamin's face. "She tried to fix me. Some people can't accept that not everything broken needs to be repaired." Emma studied his profile, the way he held himself like a man carrying invisible armor. Maybe they were trying to fix the wrong things. Benjamin's head turned slightly toward her voice. For a moment, something flickered in those blue eyes. Surprise, maybe even hope. Then the walls slammed back up. "Dinner, 6 o'clock. Don't be late, Miss Montgomery." He was gone before she could respond. Emma spent the next hour exploring her temporary home. The mansion was a monument to old money. Oil paintings of stern-faced ancestors, crystal chandeliers that threw rainbow patterns on the walls, furniture that belonged in a museum. But it felt cold, like a beautiful mausoleum. She found Benjamin in what used to be a library, now converted into some kind of office. He sat behind a massive oak desk, fingers flying over a specialized keyboard with raised dots. A computer voice read emails aloud in a mechanical monotone. "Portfolio update from Meridian Holdings. Stock prices?" "Pause," Benjamin commanded, then tilted his head toward the door. "You're early." Emma checked her phone. 5:47 p.m. 13 minutes. "I figured I'd use the extra time to find the dining room in this maze. Kitchen's through there," he pointed without looking up. "We eat there. The dining room is too..." He trailed off. "Too what?" "Too full of memories." Something in his voice made Emma's chest tighten. She approached the desk carefully, noting how his shoulders tensed as she got closer. "You run your business from here?" "Investment portfolio. I may be blind, but I'm not stupid." The defensive edge was back in his voice. "I never said you were. Actually, I'm impressed. This setup is pretty sophisticated." Benjamin's fingers stilled on the keyboard. "You're not going to ask what happened to me? Do you want me to?" "No." "Then I won't." Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Emma found herself studying his hands. Long fingers, a small scar on his left knuckle, the way they moved with absolute precision over the specialized equipment. "Car accident," he said suddenly. 18 months ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. His voice was matter-of-fact, but Emma caught the slight tremor. "I was supposed to be married 3 weeks later." Emma's heart clenched. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Catherine made it very clear that she didn't sign up for a broken man. She returned the ring before I even got out of the hospital. Then she was an idiot. Benjamin's head snapped up, those unseeing eyes finding her general direction. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Anyone who would abandon someone they claimed to love because of an accident is an idiot. And you're better off without her." For a long moment, Benjamin just stared in her direction. Then slowly, a genuine smile spread across his face, the first real one she'd seen. "You know, Miss Montgomery, you might be the first person to call my ex-fiancé an idiot to my face." Well, I call them like I see them, and I see a lot of idiots in the world. Benjamin laughed, not the careful, controlled sound from earlier, but something rich and warm that transformed his entire face. Emma felt her heart do a little flip. "Come on," he said, standing with fluid grace. "Let me show you where we eat, and Emma?" "Yes?" "It's just Benjamin, remember?" As he led her toward the kitchen, Emma caught herself watching the confident way he moved through his domain. This man wasn't broken, no matter what he thought. He was wounded, yes, but there was strength in every line of his body, intelligence in every word he spoke. And for the first time since the accident that took her father and nearly killed her mother, Emma felt something other than fear about the future. She felt hope. The kitchen was surprisingly cozy compared to the rest of the mansion. Warm wood cabinets, a large island with bar stools, copper pots hanging from hooks. It felt lived in, human. "I cook," Benjamin announced, moving to the refrigerator with sure steps. "One of the few useful skills I developed after the accident. Turns out, losing your sight makes you better at tasting. Should I be worried about food poisoning? Only if you're unlucky." Emma hopped onto one of the bar stools, watching as Benjamin pulled ingredients from the fridge with mechanical precision. Everything had its place, she realized. Labels in Braille, containers arranged in a specific order. "So what's the real story?" she asked as he began dicing onions with alarming skill. "Why did you need a caregiver so urgently? You seem pretty capable to me." Benjamin's knife work didn't slow. "My lawyer insists I need supervision to maintain control of my trust fund. Family clause about mental competency. Apparently throwing silverware at people raises red flags." "Just the one spoon incident?" "There may have been a fork, and possibly a butter knife." Emma snorted with laughter. "Definitely keeping my distance from the utensil drawer." "Smart woman." As Benjamin cooked, Emma found herself mesmerized by his movements. Every action was deliberate, confident. He moved through his kitchen like a dancer who knew every step by heart. "Pasta arrabbiata," he announced, plating 2 portions with restaurant-level precision. "Fair warning, I like it spicy." The first bite made Emma's eyes water, but it was delicious. "Holy hell, Benjamin. This is incredible." "Language, Miss Montgomery." "Sorry, holy heck, this is incredible." That earned her another genuine laugh. "Better. We're civilized people here." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The only sounds the clink of forks against plates and the distant rumble of thunder outside. Emma found herself stealing glances at Benjamin's face, noting the way he seemed to relax in the familiar environment of his kitchen. "So," Benjamin said suddenly, "what's your story? What brings a young woman to answer a vague employment ad for a mysterious caregiver position?" Emma's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Medical bills. My mother had a stroke 6 months ago. Insurance covered some of it, but..." She shrugged. "The rest is up to me." "And your father?" "Died in the same accident that put Mom in the hospital." The words came out flat, matter of fact. She'd learned not to let emotion creep in when she told this story. Benjamin set down his fork. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're survivors, Mom and I. We figure it out." "Is that why you're not afraid of me? Because you've seen worse?" Emma considered this. "Maybe. Or maybe I just recognize someone else who's tired of people treating them like they're made of glass." Benjamin was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard it yet. 59 days. "What?" "Until the surgery. My doctor called this morning. There's an experimental procedure that might restore partial vision, maybe even full sight." His hands clenched into fists on the table. 59 days to decide if I want to risk hoping again. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. "That's amazing, Benjamin. Why wouldn't you? Because what if it doesn't work? What if I get my hopes up and I'm still..." He gestured vaguely at his eyes. "What if I'm still broken?" "You're not broken. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Emma reached across the table without thinking, covering one of his clenched fists with her hand. "I've seen broken, Benjamin. You're not it." The moment her skin touched his, Benjamin went completely still. Just like earlier, that electric current passed between them, but this time neither of them pulled away. "Emma," he said, her name barely a whisper. "Yeah? I'm glad you answered my ad." And sitting in that warm kitchen, with thunder rolling outside and Benjamin's hand warm under hers, Emma realized she was glad too. Gladder than she'd been about anything in a very long time. What she didn't realize was that 59 days suddenly felt both like forever and not nearly long enough. Day 3, and Emma had already learned several crucial facts about Benjamin Whitmore. He was not a morning person. At all. His coffee had to be exactly 175 degrees, no sugar, splash of cream. Any deviation resulted in what she'd privately dubbed the Great Grumbling, and he absolutely under no circumstances allowed anyone in his study during his morning routine, which, naturally, made Emma intensely curious about what exactly happened in there. "You're lurking." Benjamin's voice drifted through the closed study door at precisely 7:43 a.m. Emma jumped back from where she'd been, definitely not eavesdropping. "I'm not lurking. I'm meandering." "Meandering implies movement. You've been standing in that exact spot for 6 minutes. How could you possibly know that?" The door opened, revealing Benjamin in workout clothes, gray sweatpants and a fitted t-shirt that did absolutely nothing to hide the fact that blindness hadn't affected his dedication to staying in shape. Emma's brain momentarily short-circuited. "You breathe differently when you're trying to be quiet," he said with smug satisfaction. "Also, you smell like vanilla and determination." "I do not smell like determination." "Trust me, you do. It's very distinctive." Emma crossed her arms, trying to ignore how the morning light caught the gold flecks in his dark hair. "What do you do in there that's so secretive anyway? Plan world domination? Physical therapy?" The simple answer deflated her curiosity bubble. "Oh." Benjamin leaned against the doorframe, and for a moment his carefully constructed walls seemed to crack. "The accident. It wasn't just my eyes. Broken ribs, shattered left leg, torn rotator cuff. The vision loss just got all the attention." Emma felt something twist in her chest. "How long?" 2 hours every morning. Keeps the nightmares away." He straightened abruptly, walls slamming back up. "Your coffee's getting cold." "Benjamin." "Coffee. Cold." He disappeared back into the study, leaving Emma staring at the closed door and wondering how many other pieces of Benjamin Whitmore he kept locked away. "You know what this place needs?" Emma announced over lunch, attacking her sandwich with more enthusiasm than strictly necessary. Benjamin looked up from his soup with the expression of a man bracing for impact. "I'm afraid to ask." "Music." "Absolutely not." "Come on, it's like living in a beautiful, acoustically perfect mausoleum. When's the last time you actually listened to music?" Benjamin set down his spoon with deliberate precision. "Music requires feeling. I'm not particularly interested in feeling anything right now." "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. I thought you said you'd seen worse." Emma studied his face, the careful blankness he wore like armor. "I have. But this is different. This is choosing to be sad." "I'm not sad. I'm practical." "You're scared." Benjamin's jaw tightened. "I'm not." "Yes, you are. You're scared that if you let yourself feel anything good, it might get taken away again. So you've decided to take it away yourself first." The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Benjamin's hands were clenched on the table, his unseeing eyes fixed somewhere past her shoulder. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said finally, his voice dangerously quiet. "Don't I? Benjamin, I lost my father and watched my mother almost die in the same night. I know what it's like to be afraid of hoping for anything good. Then you should understand. I understand that fear. But I also understand that living afraid isn't living at all." Benjamin pushed back from the table so abruptly his chair scraped against the floor. "This conversation is over." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is. You're my employee, Miss Montgomery, not my therapist." The formal address hit Emma like a slap. "Fine. But for the record, your employees are usually allowed to play music while they work. Not in my house. Then I guess it's a good thing I didn't ask for permission." Benjamin paused in the doorway. What's that supposed to mean? But Emma was already pulling out her phone, scrolling through her playlist. She found what she was looking for and hit play. The opening notes of "Here Comes the Sun" filled the kitchen. Gentle, hopeful, impossible to ignore. Benjamin's shoulders went rigid. "Turn it off." "No. Emma, I'm warning you. Warn away. I'm not afraid of your spoons, remember?" She watched his face as the music continued, saw the exact moment his careful control began to crack. His hands trembled slightly, and she realized with a shock that his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Please," he whispered, and the word was so broken it made her chest ache. Emma immediately stopped the music. The silence that followed felt deafening. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I shouldn't have pushed." Benjamin didn't respond. He just stood there in the doorway, looking lost and young and completely devastated. Without thinking, Emma got up and walked over to him. She didn't touch him. Some instinct told her he needed space right now. But she stood close enough that he could feel her presence. "Talk to me," she said quietly. "That was our song." Benjamin's voice was barely audible. "Catherine and I, it was playing when I proposed." She said it reminded her of how I made her feel. Emma's heart broke a little more. "Benjamin, after the accident I tried to listen to it once, just once, but all I could think about was how she looked at me in that hospital bed, like I was already dead. She was wrong. Was she? Look at me, Emma. Really look at me. I can't see your face. I can't drive you somewhere beautiful or watch movies with you or see if you're smiling when I make a joke. I can't even listen to a simple song without falling apart." "You're right," Emma said, and Benjamin's head snapped toward her in surprise. "You can't see my face, but you know my expressions anyway. You always know when I'm smiling or frustrated or thinking too hard about something. You can't drive me somewhere beautiful, but you can cook me the most amazing dinner I've ever had in your own kitchen. And as for movies..." She paused. "When's the last time you tried audio description?" "Audio what?" "It's a thing. They describe what's happening on screen. My mom and I used to watch them together when her vision was really bad after the stroke." Benjamin was quiet for a long moment. "You really think it would work?" "I think you'll never know if you don't try." Another pause, then, "What about the music?" Emma considered this carefully. "What if we started small? Not that song, not yet. But maybe something new. Something that could be just ours." "Ours?" The word hung in the air between them, loaded with possibility. "I mean..." Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. "For while I'm here, something to make this feel less like a museum and more like a home." Benjamin turned fully toward her then, and for a moment she thought he might reach for her. Instead, he simply nodded. "Something new," he agreed quietly. "Something new." That evening, Emma found Benjamin in the library-turned-office, but instead of working, he was just sitting in the leather chair by the window, hands folded in his lap. "Penny, for your thoughts?" He startled slightly. "I didn't hear you come in." "You were thinking pretty loudly." Emma settled into the matching chair across from him. "Want to share?" "I called my doctor today about the surgery." Emma's heart skipped. "And?" "I scheduled it. 56 days from now." "Benjamin, that's wonderful." "Is it?" He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "What if it doesn't work? What if I get my hopes up and then you'll deal with it? But what if it does work?" "I don't know how to hope anymore, Emma. I don't know how to want something that badly again." Emma studied his profile in the fading afternoon light. "Then let me hope for both of us. Just until you remember how." Benjamin turned toward her voice, something vulnerable and raw in his expression. "Why would you do that?" "Because," Emma said simply, "that's what friends do." Friends? Friends. But even as she said it, Emma knew that what was growing between them was already something much more complicated than friendship. And from the way Benjamin's breath caught when she said the word, she suspected he knew it too. 56 days suddenly felt both like an eternity and nowhere near enough time. Emma discovered 3 weeks into her employment that Benjamin Whitmore was a magnificent liar. Not about the important stuff, his feelings, his fears, his past, but about the little things, like how he definitely didn't enjoy their evening walks around the garden. I need the exercise, nothing more. Or how he absolutely wasn't humming along to the jazz playlist she'd started playing during dinner. That was just thinking out loud. Or how he certainly didn't look forward to their conversations every day. You're surprisingly tolerable company, I suppose. The man was about as subtle as a freight train wearing a tutu. You're smiling again, Benjamin said without looking up from the Braille book he was reading. They were in the conservatory, afternoon sunlight streaming through the glass walls. How could you possibly know that? You breathe differently when you smile. Also, you've been doing it more lately. Emma curled deeper into the oversized armchair, tucking her feet under her. Maybe I have good reason to. Such as, maybe I like it here. Benjamin's fingers stilled on the page. Here as in this house. Here as in this. She gestured around them, even though he couldn't see it. Reading together. Our walks. The way you pretend not to enjoy my terrible jokes. Your jokes are objectively terrible. See? You're doing it right now. Benjamin closed his book with a soft thud. Emma. Benjamin. We need to talk. The seriousness in his voice made her stomach flip. That sounds ominous. I called Dr. Morrison yesterday about the surgery. Emma set down her own book, giving him her full attention. What did he say? The procedure. It's more complex than I initially understood. There's a chance, a small one, that even if it works, the recovery could be difficult. Vision that comes and goes. Severe headaches. Possible complications. But there's also a chance it could work perfectly. Yes. So what's the problem? Benjamin was quiet for a long moment, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. The problem is that for the first time since the accident, I actually want it to work, and that terrifies me. Emma's heart clenched. Why? Because wanting things, hoping for them, it changes everything. It makes you vulnerable, and I swore I'd never be that vulnerable again. Benjamin. But then you happened. His voice was barely above a whisper. And suddenly I find myself wondering what you look like when you laugh. Really laugh, not just smile. I wonder what color your eyes are when you're thinking hard about something. I wonder. He stopped, shaking his head. Emma felt her heart hammering against her ribs. You wonder what? I wonder if you'd still look at me the same way if I could look back. The confession hung in the air between them, like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. Benjamin, Emma said softly, what way do I look at you? Like I'm not broken. Like I'm still worth something. Emma was out of her chair before she'd consciously decided to move. She knelt beside Benjamin's chair, close enough that her knees brushed his. You are worth something, you're worth everything. Benjamin's breath caught. You don't understand. Then help me understand. For a moment, she thought he might pull away. Instead, he reached out with careful fingers, finding her face. His touch was feather-light as he traced the line of her jaw, the curve of her cheek. I used to be able to read people's faces, he said quietly. Every expression, every emotion. It was like a language I spoke fluently. Now you read people differently. Better, maybe. What do you mean? Emma leaned into his touch without thinking. You know when I'm sad before I do. You can tell when I'm frustrated or amused or trying not to laugh at something inappropriate. You don't need to see my face to know me, Benjamin. You already do. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone, and Emma felt her eyes flutter closed. Green, he said suddenly. What? Your eyes. They're green, aren't they? Like sea glass. Emma's breath hitched. How could you possibly know that? Lucky guess? Benjamin's smile was soft, genuine. Or maybe I know you better than I thought." They stayed like that for a long moment, his hand warm against her face, the afternoon light painting everything golden. Emma felt like she was balanced on the edge of something enormous and terrifying and wonderful. 37 days, Benjamin said finally. What? Until the surgery? 37 days. Are you counting? Every single one. That evening, Emma found Benjamin in the kitchen preparing what looked like enough food for a small army. "Expecting company?" she asked, sliding onto her usual bar stool. "I thought we could try something new tonight." "Such as?" "A movie, with audio description like you suggested." Emma blinked in surprise. "Really?" "Really. I figured if I'm going to start hoping for things again, I might as well start small." "What did you pick?" Benjamin gestured toward the laptop open on the counter. "The Princess Bride. I used to love it, and I thought, maybe it would be different now. Better, even." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. "That's perfect. There's just one condition." "Oh?" Benjamin turned toward her, and she could see the hint of nervousness in his expression. "I want to listen to it with you. Together. On the couch." The couch, which meant sitting close, which meant... "Okay," Emma said, surprised by how breathless she sounded. "Okay? Okay." An hour later, they were settled on the massive sectional in the living room, the laptop balanced on the coffee table. Benjamin had insisted on making popcorn, which had resulted in a minor kitchen disaster involving burned kernels and the smoke alarm. "You're sure you know how to cook?" Emma teased, settling beside him with what was probably closer than strictly necessary. "Popcorn is an advanced culinary art. I may have overestimated my abilities." The movie started, and Emma found herself watching Benjamin more than the screen. His face was relaxed in a way she'd never seen before, a genuine smile playing at his lips as the familiar story unfolded. "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya," the audio description narrator said. "You killed my father. Prepare to die." "I always loved that line," Benjamin said quietly. "Still do? Even more now, I think. There's something about experiencing a story through sound alone. It's pure." Emma shifted slightly, and her shoulder brushed against his arm. Benjamin went very still. "Sorry," she murmured, starting to pull away. "Don't." His voice was rough. "Don't move away." So she didn't. Instead, she settled more comfortably against his side, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. As the movie continued, Emma became increasingly aware of every point of contact between them. The warmth of his arm against hers, the way he unconsciously leaned into her when he laughed, the moment when his hand, resting on the couch between them, somehow found hers. "Emma," he said during a quiet scene, not moving his hand away from hers. "Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For making me remember that good things can happen, even to broken people." Emma turned to look at him, noting the way the flickering light from the laptop screen played across his features. "You're not broken, Benjamin. You're just finding a new way to be whole." Benjamin squeezed her hand gently. 36 days, he said softly. "I know. I'm scared. I know that too. What if..." "Hey!" Emma shifted so she was facing him more fully. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out. Together." Together. The word hung between them, loaded with promise and possibility. "Together," Emma confirmed. And as they turned back to the movie, hands still intertwined, both of them were thinking the same thing. 36 days had never felt so much like both forever and not nearly enough time. Later, after the credits had rolled and they'd discussed every plot twist and favorite line, Emma found herself reluctant to leave the comfortable cocoon they'd created on the couch. "I should probably head to bed," she said, but made no move to get up. "Probably," Benjamin agreed, but his thumb was tracing gentle circles on the back of her hand. "Benjamin? What you said earlier about wondering what I look like when I laugh. Yeah? I have a theory about that." "Oh?" Emma smiled even though he couldn't see it. I think you'll know. When the time comes, when you can see again. I think you'll know exactly what my laugh looks like because you've been seeing it all along. Just with your heart instead of your eyes. Benjamin turned toward her then, his free hand reaching up to cup her face again. For a moment, Emma thought he might kiss her. The air between them was charged, electric with possibility. Instead, he pressed his forehead against hers, their breathing mingling in the small space between them. 36 days, he whispered. 36 days, she agreed. And in that moment, both of them knew that whatever happened when Benjamin could see again, this closeness, this connection, this feeling of coming home, was real. The only question was whether it would be enough. 3 days before the surgery, Emma found Benjamin standing motionless in his study at 2 a.m., fully dressed, staring at nothing. Couldn't sleep either? She asked softly from the doorway. He didn't startle anymore when she appeared unexpectedly. Somewhere over the past weeks, he'd grown attuned to her presence in a way that went beyond hearing. I keep thinking about colors, Benjamin said without turning around. I remember them, but do I really? Or are they just echoes of what I used to know? Emma padded into the room, her bare feet silent on the Persian rug. What color are you thinking about right now? Blue. The exact shade of the sky on the day I proposed to Catherine. I thought it was perfect then. This brilliant, cloudless blue. But now I wonder, was it really that beautiful? Or did I just tell myself it was because I wanted everything to be perfect? Emma stopped beside him, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. Does it matter? What do you mean? I mean, maybe the beauty wasn't in the color itself. Maybe it was in the feeling you had when you looked at it. The hope, the excitement, the love you felt in that moment. She paused. Colors are just wavelengths of light, Benjamin. The beauty is what we bring to them. Benjamin turned toward her voice, his expression thoughtful. Is that your way of telling me I'm overthinking things? Maybe a little. Emma? Yeah? What color is your hair? The question caught her off guard. My hair? I've been wondering for weeks. I know it's curly. I can hear it move when you shake your head. And it smells like coconut and sunshine. But the color... Emma reached up self-consciously to touch her hair. It's brown. Kind of a chestnut brown with some golden highlights that I definitely can't afford to maintain properly. Chestnut, Benjamin repeated, like he was tasting the word. Like autumn leaves? More like autumn leaves after they've been stepped on a few times. Benjamin laughed, the sound rich and warm in the quiet room. I doubt that. You have very flattering ideas about my appearance. Do I? Something in his tone made Emma's pulse quicken. Benjamin, I have a confession, he said quietly. About the surgery. Emma's stomach dropped. What kind of confession? I'm not afraid it won't work anymore. That's good, right? I'm afraid it will work. Emma stared at him in confusion. I don't understand. Benjamin ran a hand through his hair, messing up the dark strands. What if I can see you and you're not? What if you're not what I've imagined? What if the reality doesn't match the woman I've fallen? He stopped abruptly. The woman you've what? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Benjamin closed his eyes as if that could somehow hide from the truth he'd almost revealed. Emma, Say it. I can't. Why not? Because once I say it, it becomes real. And real things can be taken away. Emma felt tears prick at her eyes. Benjamin, look at me. I can't. Yes, you can. Not with your eyes, but the way you always do. The way you've been looking at me for weeks. Slowly, Benjamin turned to face her fully. His hands found her face with sure movements, fingers tracing the familiar landscape of her features. The woman I've fallen in love with, he said finally, the words falling into the space between them like stones into still water. Emma's breath caught. Benjamin, I know it's insane. I know I have no right to feel this way about someone who's supposed to be taking care of me. I know that in 3 days everything might change, and you might look at me differently and this might all fall apart, but Emma silenced him by covering his hands with hers. But what? But I love you. I love your terrible jokes and the way you hum when you think I'm not listening. I love how you never let me get away with feeling sorry for myself. I love that you see me, really see me, when the rest of the world just sees what I can't do anymore. Tears were flowing freely down Emma's cheeks now. Benjamin, and I'm terrified that when I can see you with my eyes, it will change everything. What if the way you look doesn't match the way you feel to me? What if... Stop. Emma's voice was firm. Just stop. Emma, do you want to know what I look like? I'm 5'4" on a good day. I have a scar through my left eyebrow from when I fell off my bike when I was 7. My nose is slightly crooked because I broke it in the same car accident that hurt my mom. I have freckles across my cheeks that I used to hate, but now I've made peace with. My eyes are green, like you guessed, but they're not sea glass green. They're more like swamp water green. Benjamin's thumbs brushed away her tears. Emma, I'm not beautiful, Benjamin. I'm not the woman you've built up in your head. I'm just me. Ordinary, stubborn, broke, damaged me. Are you finished? Because if you are, I'd like to tell you what I see when I look at you. Emma nodded, then realized he couldn't see the gesture. Okay. I see a woman who answered a cryptic job posting and showed up in the rain with a broken suitcase and enough courage to take on a complete stranger. I see someone who makes me laugh when I thought I'd forgotten how. I see someone who pushes me when I need pushing and holds me when I need holding. His voice grew softer, more intense. I see someone who smells like vanilla and determination, who hums off-key when she's happy, who argues with me about everything and somehow makes me love every minute of it. I see someone who believed I was worth saving when I didn't believe it myself. Emma was crying harder now, but she didn't care. That's what I see when I look at you, Emma. And no surgery, no amount of restored vision is going to change that. Because I'm not in love with what you look like, I'm in love with who you are. Benjamin, I love you, he said again. The words stronger now, more certain. Whatever happens in 3 days, that's not going to change. Emma reached up and framed his face with her hands, thumbs tracing the sharp line of his cheekbones. I love you too. Benjamin went very still. You do? I love your terrible morning mood and your perfectionist coffee requirements. I love how you pretend not to enjoy things when you clearly do. I love your hands and your laugh and the way you move through the world like you own it because you absolutely do. She leaned closer, their foreheads touching. I love that you throw spoons at people who annoy you. I love that you cook like a chef and listen like a poet. I love that you're brave enough to hope again, even when it terrifies you. Emma, I love you, Benjamin Whitmore. All of you. Broken pieces and sharp edges and stubborn pride and beautiful heart. And then finally, inevitably, Benjamin kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear. But when Emma kissed him back, threading her fingers through his hair, the kiss deepened. It was everything Emma had imagined and nothing like she'd expected. Tender and passionate and perfect and real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Benjamin rested his forehead against hers. 3 days, he whispered. 3 days, she agreed. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. That's what you do when you love someone. Benjamin smiled, the first truly unguarded expression she'd ever seen on his face. Together. Together. The next morning, Emma woke up in her own bed, but with the taste of Benjamin's kiss still on her lips, and the memory of falling asleep on the couch in his arms before he'd gently carried her upstairs. She found him in the kitchen making breakfast with more enthusiasm than usual. You're humming, she observed, sliding onto her usual stool. I am not humming. You absolutely are. Here comes the sun, if I'm not mistaken. Benjamin paused in his egg flipping, a slow smile spreading across his face. Maybe I am. And why might you be humming, Mr. Whitmore? Benjamin set down his spatula and moved around the island until he was standing in front of her. His hands found her waist, pulling her closer. "Because," he said, leaning down to kiss her softly, "for the first time in 18 months, I'm not afraid of tomorrow." Emma melted into the kiss, marveling at how right this felt, how perfect and natural and absolutely terrifying. 2 days, she murmured against his lips. 2 days, he agreed. But Emma, yeah? Whatever happens with the surgery, this is real. This is forever. Emma looked into his beautiful, unseeing blue eyes and saw her entire future reflected there. Forever, she agreed. And for the first time since her father died, Emma truly believed in happy endings again. But first, they had to get through the surgery. And Benjamin had to learn that sometimes, the most beautiful things in life are the ones you never saw coming. Surgery day arrived with the kind of crystalline morning that felt like the world holding its breath. Emma sat in the hospital waiting room, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup that had gone cold hours ago. Benjamin had been in surgery for 6 hours, 6 hours of her staring at the same motivational poster about hanging in there until she'd memorized every whisker on the cartoon cat. Emma Montgomery? She shot up so fast she nearly sent the coffee flying. Dr. Morrison stood in the doorway, still in his surgical scrubs, his expression unreadable. "How is he?" The words tumbled out before the doctor had fully entered the room. "The surgery went well. Better than we hoped, actually." Emma's knees nearly gave out. "Does that mean we won't know the full extent of vision restoration for several days? The brain needs time to process visual information again. But the initial signs are very promising. Can I see him?" Dr. Morrison smiled. "He's been asking for you since he woke up. Fair warning, his eyes are bandaged for now. We'll remove them tomorrow morning." Emma was already moving toward the door. "Which room?" Benjamin looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, white gauze wrapped around his eyes like a blindfold. But he was awake, his head turning toward the door the moment she entered. "Emma, right here." She was at his bedside in 3 quick steps, her hand finding his. "How long was I out?" "About 8 hours total. Dr. Morrison says it went better than expected." Benjamin squeezed her hand. "And tomorrow? Tomorrow we find out if you can see again. Are you scared?" Emma considered lying, then decided they were past that. "Terrified. Me too." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Emma tracing patterns on the back of Benjamin's hand with her thumb. "Emma? Yeah? Whatever happens tomorrow, what I said the other night, I meant it. All of it. I know. Do you? Because I need you to really know. I need you to understand that." "Benjamin." Emma leaned closer, pressing a soft kiss to his forehead. "I love you. You love me. Everything else is just details." Benjamin's smile was soft and wondering. "Just details?" "Just details." The next morning arrived with the subtle cruelty of perfect weather. Emma had spent the night in the uncomfortable hospital chair, dozing fitfully and waking every hour to make sure Benjamin was still breathing. Dr. Morrison entered the room with a small entourage of nurses and residents, all wearing expressions of professional optimism. "Ready to see what we accomplished?" he asked Benjamin. "As ready as I'll ever be." Emma positioned herself slightly behind the doctor, suddenly seized by the irrational fear that she should hide. What if Benjamin took one look at her and realized he'd made a terrible mistake? "The bandages may stick a little," Dr. Morrison warned as he began unwrapping the gauze. "And the light will be very bright at first. Don't try to focus on anything specific right away." Layer by layer, the bandages came away. Emma held her breath. "Okay, Benjamin. Very slowly. Try to open your eyes." Benjamin's eyelids fluttered. Once, twice. Then opened. Even from where she stood, Emma could see his pupils contract as they met light for the first time in 18 months. Benjamin blinked several times, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I can see," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's blurry, but I can see shapes, light." That's excellent, Dr. Morrison said. The clarity will improve over the next few days. Your brain is essentially relearning how to process visual information. Benjamin's head turned slowly, taking in the room, the window, the machines, the cluster of medical staff. And then his gaze found Emma. Even blurry, even unfocused, she saw the exact moment he realized he was looking at her. His entire body went still. Emma? She stepped forward on shaking legs. Hi. Benjamin stared at her, actually stared at her, for a long moment. Emma felt exposed, vulnerable, like every insecurity she'd ever had was written across her face in permanent marker. You. Benjamin's voice was barely a whisper. Emma's heart sank. This was it. This was the moment he realized she wasn't what he'd imagined. Wasn't beautiful enough. Wasn't. You're perfect. Emma blinked. What? You're absolutely perfect. Benjamin was trying to sit up, his eyes never leaving her face. Your hair really is the color of autumn leaves. And your eyes. God, Emma, your eyes are like emeralds, not swamp water at all. Benjamin, and that scar through your eyebrow? It makes you look like a warrior, like someone who's fought battles and won. Tears were streaming down Emma's face now. You're still half blind, you know. Give it a few days. Benjamin laughed, the sound bright and joyous. I've been seeing you clearly for weeks, Emma. This just confirms what I already knew. Dr. Morrison cleared his throat diplomatically. Perhaps we should give you two some privacy. As the medical team filed out, Emma moved closer to the bed. Benjamin reached for her face with careful fingers, just like he had so many times before, but now his eyes were tracking the movement. I dreamed about this moment, he said softly, about what it would be like to see you for the first time. But the reality is so much better than anything I imagined. Even with the swamp water eyes and stepped-on leaf hair, especially with those. Benjamin's thumb brushed away her tears. Emma, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. Not because you're conventionally beautiful, though you absolutely are, but because when I look at you, I see love. I see home. I see my future. Emma leaned into his touch, marveling at the way his eyes followed every movement. I love you. I love you too. And now I get to spend the rest of my life both seeing you and really seeing you. The rest of your life, huh? That's a pretty big assumption. Benjamin's smile was radiant. Emma Montgomery, will you marry me? Emma's heart stopped. What? I know it's crazy. I know we've only known each other for 2 months and technically you're my employee, and I don't even have a ring, but yes. What? Yes, Benjamin. Yes, I'll marry you. The kiss that followed was witnessed by exactly no one except the heart monitor, which registered a significant spike in Benjamin's pulse rate. 6 months later, you know, Mrs. Whitmore, Benjamin said, pulling Emma closer on the couch where they'd first watched a movie together. I think I prefer you slightly out of focus. Excuse me? Emma looked up from the wedding magazine she'd been pretending to read. When my vision was still adjusting, everything had this soft, dreamy quality. You looked like you were glowing. I hate to break it to you, but that was just the pain medication. Benjamin laughed, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. Nope, you still glow. I checked with Dr. Morrison. Apparently, it's a rare side effect of being completely hopelessly in love. Emma set aside the magazine and turned to face her husband. Her husband, fully. Is that a medical term? Absolutely. Very technical. The scientific name is Emma-induced luminescence. You're ridiculous. And you love me anyway. I love you because of it, not anyway. Benjamin's expression grew tender. You know what the best part about getting my sight back was? What? Realizing that I'd been seeing you perfectly all along. The surgery just gave me confirmation. Emma felt her eyes well up, again. She'd become embarrassingly weepy since the engagement. Stop making me cry, you sap. Never. I like knowing I can make you cry happy tears. How do you know they're happy tears? Because, Benjamin said, leaning down to kiss her softly, I can see them, and they're beautiful. As they settled back into comfortable silence, the jazz playlist Emma had introduced months ago, playing softly in the background, both of them were thinking the same thing. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin in the dark, and sometimes the most precious sight is the one that has nothing to do with vision at all. Sometimes love really is all about learning to see with your heart. The end.